I'm gonna do something I hope will be helpful for you all. After sitting and listening to Heather and Harold do that overview of all of the sources that are out there on the internet, I felt a little bit anxious. I don't know if you all felt the same way, but just sort of, wow, there's a lot of stuff. And a lot of it is like just there for you. It just seems like there's mountains of documents, and they're all not even in literal mountains. They're just sort of in digital space, which is going to be, it's just a lot to keep track of. So I wanted to just show you what I have done when I was, my last huge project that I did, which was my doctoral dissertation, which is now in the process of being transformed into a book. But when I was in the research stage of this, I would take these documents and create like a notes file when I was going through my research. This is kind of what I envision your research journal being for this class. It can look like this as sort of like all over the place as mine look. I found them really helpful because I go back and see, what exactly I found in these archives, because I wasn't doing digital research. I was doing like actual physical research, but also, how I thought I could use it, any sort of impressions I had when I look through it. It all is helpful to have that written down. So I have, this is my note file from the National Archives, Legislative Archives that I went to in DC. And you can see that I have like notes to myself up at the top, even, like kind of sad notes, feels fruitless to search, blah, blah, blah. This is more helpful than I was hoped, blah, blah, blah. I, kept notes to myself as to how long I took with each box because I was there for a couple days. I actually took photos and scanned them. So this is, if you're applying it to digital research, it could be really useful to put all the info you have about like the folder and the box and the collection that these things are from. As Heather was pointing out, those kinds of identifying numbers. Put that in a way that makes sense to you. So for me, I actually developed a heading, a system of headings. So one kind of font underlined for the box title, something for the folder title, and then something for a notes to myself about what was in that particular box. So this could be applied depending on which kinds of sources you are engaging with as well. So you can see I took photos, I wrote down what they were. I wrote down any notes to myself that I thought might be useful later when I was going through all of these scans. So I have like little actual notes to myself of being there, of just sitting there in the archives being like, what is this? That I thought was really helpful later. These things are like inflammatory. These things that I know I want to maybe go back and look at later because they're really good for my particular project. I took down notes about, what if I photographed something, if I didn't think it was worth writing out specific notes because it didn't seem to be relevant to my particular project at that time. We've got gossip, things like that. That's helpful for me to know for later because who doesn't like to know about the gossip? So then also other notes, like lots of good stuff. Some things aren't even dated, like things like that that are when you're immersed in all of the documents. This might apply like if you're in a digital collection and you're looking through like a whole folder's worth of stuff that's scanned there, to have you kind of glean information about certain sources that are based on the location of them in the archival folder. So with that Herman Baca collection that Heather showed us, you could see like, why would this bill about Texas farm workers be next to the bumper sticker, be next to this pamphlet? Like something about all of these things together maybe reveal something else that you can work with to analyze. So these are my notes here. So stop taking notes since it's close to closing time. I'm trying to get home. I think I have like actual notes about how I was so tired and falling asleep at one point. So you can sort of see what I was doing there. So after I had gone through and scanned all the documents and taken notes on everything, I actually created this ginormous file. So this is I don't even know, hundreds of pages, this 568 page document, because this is all of the archival collections I consulted for my dissertation. So obviously this is like a huge project, but it's helpful because I put in, like, basically made myself a table of contents, I used subject headings and different, headings in the document to help me organize. This I do recommend doing, and I got this technique from another professor at UCSD, Nancy Kwok, who let us in, graduate students, in to her research documents and her notes. And I thought that was extremely helpful when I was first starting out. So that is kind of the motivation for me showing you all of these messy notes right now. So in this document, I put in, each document I had like my system for numbering the box and the folder and the actual document with different fonts. And then I would take my notes. I would actually transcribe certain aspects of the document that I thought were really relevant to my project. I would leave myself comments about where these things should be. I don't know what this one says. Add to the timeline. So these were just like little notes to myself that I found helpful when I was going back later. So this is what I really want the research journal to kind of look like. So it doesn't have to be a fully formed, today I went to this archive online and I found this. Like, you can write that if that's helpful to you, but just make sure that you are organizing in a way that is helpful, that you remember where you got everything, and that you're taking down notes so you can remember where you need to go from there. So the last thing I'll show you is a recent research trip I took to the National Archives branch in Atlanta. And I have the same kind of a system that I did. So I took down the description of the things I took photos of. I have information about, just what these things remind me of, and what I got from the initial read through of those kinds of sources. And then at the bottom of this document, since it was kind of a research trip that took place also after the majority of my research had already done, I went in and organized it. So I am specifically looking for things I can use for one chapter of my book that I know exactly what the topic is. So trying to organize all the sources that I found, taking notes on them. This time I used the comment function to leave myself comments, and then I sort of organized based on the thing. So I know that there's a lot of affidavits that are this. I put down all of the files that I found that related to that particular topic, etc. So I will stop talking because that's a lot of information at once, but I can then show you all a little later how I actually organize the physical documents that are not physical, I guess digital documents that I have actually used as primary sources. So that's one thing I thought that was worth thinking about, is when you are going in and doing all this research, if you find something that seems really useful, maybe download it to a folder that's clearly labeled as to where you got it, or tag it, or some sort of note where you know where you got it, but then save it to your computer in a place where you know where you can always find it, rather than feeling like, oh, I lost the trail. I found this digital source and I don't know where I remembered finding it. So this is just my thoughts about after that meeting we had, just processing all of the information that they shared, which was so useful, and giving you sort of a glimpse into what I've done in terms of organizing a massive amount of information and sources. And just, even looking through this right now makes me overwhelmed. So I just wanted to let you know that you guys are not alone if you're feeling a little overwhelmed and stressed. There's a lot of stuff out there, and that's okay. You don't have to cover everything in this particular project. It's just sort of the beginning stages. So just one step at a time. And I'm looking forward to hearing more about what you thought about that meeting later. All right. Thank you.